It's like book club, but it's more than books, and it's not quite a club.
I am not a rum girly. Oh.
I am. That went down smooth. I'm maximum rum girly. Shout out to all my lit girlies, rum girlies out there.
I'm somewhere in between. I'd rather it was vodka.
Ooh. Oh, I miss tequila. Oh.
This went down so much easier than the tequila.
Tequila has a strong taste, but at least there's no burn. This is awful.
And it's very, dark and moody. Kind of reminds me of being in some type of like English estate, some type of heights. I don't know. Wuther Heights. I barely knew her heights.
Welcome to Story Stack and our Cocktails and Classics episode. If you hadn't guessed it already. Today's classic is Wuthering Heights. Essentially, we're going to drink a different drink than we've done before. This is going to be a dark and stormy, fitting for, I would say, the content of Wuthering Heights. And we are going to kind of break it down tipsy style.
Yeah, to reiterate from our last Cocktails and Classics episode, which if you haven't seen, go check it out. The classics aren't something that you should be scared of or intimidated by. They're something that you should be able to enjoy with a friend over a drink. And that's the point of these episodes. So,
I'm Gabriel.
I'm Ansley.
And I'm Lily.
And this is Story Stack. So, Wuthering Heights, the book, not the movie.
We got thoughts on the movie too.
We will have thoughts on the movie.
Right. But the book is one of the most dense things I've ever read. And it took me a while longer than most books normally take to read, and I'm curious first as to y'all's reading experience of it.
Well, I was talking with Lily about this before we started, that I don't think it's too much of a putting yourself out there to say that Moby Dick might be the most dense, thematically English literature novel ever written. I don't think Wuthering Heights is too far from that. It is up there as far as themes and impact and just everything. It is truly a novel that encapsulates the human condition.
I mean, one thing I'm going to say about it is I think that it's fair to say that the way that it is written is very convoluted. Like, story within a story, but then sometimes it's a story within a story within a story. Names that are literally the same. You'll have one person that has multiple different ways that they are being referred to. But then you will also have another person with the same exact name. And so that kind of complicates things. But I will say the story itself isn't that complicated. Man, boy, gets adopted by rich family. Turns out rich people suck. Goes on a revenge, life of just revenge. And there's a little bit of love in the first third of the book. And then everyone just drops off after that.
Are you saying it's the greatest love story ever told?
It's truly for the friends to lovers.
I think that Heathcliff is certainly one of the most obsessive lovers that I've ever read. And honestly, iconic for that. I definitely have a line in there where Heathcliff is yearning so hard. It's after Catherine dies. And he's like, so haunt me then. Haunt me forever. Life means nothing. You are my soul. All that. And I'm like, okay, find you a man that wants you to haunt him forever. Mm-hmm. But not trying to romanticize Heathcliff at all. That man is so toxic.
Well, okay, wait, no. So this is, I think, the most interesting thing about Heathcliff as a character, especially in a modern context of Heathcliff literally will burn it all down for you. That's almost a hackneyed phrase at this point of I'd burn it all down for you. We were talking about it last episode. But that's the thing that makes Heathcliff scary, is that he would.
I saw just a brilliant TikTok, I think earlier today, actually, talking about it. and I wish I could remember exactly what it said, but it was something to the effect of like, Heathcliff is love without mercy. Like, genuinely. I wish I could remember exactly what it said, but it was just brilliant, on the nose, like exactly. It is obsession. It crosses the line of love to like blind devotion, and how dangerous that can be, because I do think, I mean, me and Lily are romantic girlies. We love hearing that somebody would burn it all down. But when you actually see that, it's terrifying. And I think that this book does such a great job of detailing exactly why that is a bad thing. About the Heathcliff, like digging up her grave and like being beside himself when Kathy dies. Not to get into the movie so soon in this episode, but reading that, and full clarification, I read the book in anticipation of the movie. Like, I already had the movie in my brain when I was reading it. But reading that scene, I was like, ooh, Emerald Fennell is about to do another Saltburn. We're about to see. Like, that's Saltburn. What was in the back of my head of like, ooh, this is going to be a freaky ass scene in the movie.
What is it in Saltburn? He has sex with a grave?
Yes.
Yeah,
he like digs. What is Jacob Elordi's character in that movie? Felix. He like digs Felix's grave up and like has sex with the ground. Like, it was so bizarre.
That's almost like witnessing an erection at a hanging. I have so much to say about this movie.
Again, not to get into the movie so quickly, but I saw a brilliant Substack entry post. I don't know what they're called on Substack. Post, I think. But it was 4 film critics that had been invited to just sort of share their thoughts in a Google Doc. So like, there were some guiding like questions, but they were all just kind of talking back and forth. But it was so good because they talked about that opening scene specifically and about how it really set the stage for everyone's brutalism in the movie. The fact that everybody is just as like debased as we're meant to think that Heathcliff is in the book, but then it just never goes anywhere. Like, that was such a crazy opening to just not really deliver anything on.
I have so many problems with the movie. That might be my main problem, though, is it wants to portray this world as horrific and debased as Heathcliff and Catherine. But the problem is that's not what the book is about. The book is about their toxic relationship ruining everything around them. So if the world is already as fucked up as they are, then there's no story. You ruined the main point. The
other part of it to me too is like, okay, and obviously Jacob Elordi being cast, there were a lot of conversations about race. And Emerald Fennell's answer, Hollywood Reporter was one of the ones that interviewed her and posted about it. But she basically gave the answer of like, well, you can only ever make the version of the book that you were imagining and whatever. I don't think that's true. I think she was lying on the red carpet.
Because was she reading the book?
Well, it's because honestly, that was a lot of the feedback of like, you had to have read the book with your eyes closed. I don't think that she cast Jacob Elordi with this idea of like, oh, well, I was just focused more on the romance elements. I think that she had every understanding of the racial importance of this story and actively chose to like, what is the word I'm looking for? Bury, but like more than that.
Obfuscate, ignore.
Ignore it, maybe.
Race-blind casting.
Because of how certain characters were conflated. So we don't get Hindley in the movie, who is the chief oppressor of Heathcliff.
One of the most important characters
He's
in the book.
Literally one of the most integral, and then by extension Hareton is literally one of the most important like pillars in the story, characters in the story when it comes to the racism that Heathcliff goes through. He is conflated with the father in the movie. The father ends up just living as long as Hindley and takes on like the gambling aspects of his personality so that he loses Wuthering Heights to Heathcliff. But that's it. We get like a scene of him whipping Heathcliff as a child, but then that is the only real animosity we see towards Heathcliff for the rest of the movie.
Not to mention that it doesn't make sense for this one character who is Mr. Earnshaw and Hindley combined into one. Doesn't make sense for him to take home this child just to abuse him. In the book, Heathcliff is adopted by the Earnshaws because Mr. Earnshaw cares for Heathcliff.
And another layer to it is the implicit meaning there that it's not adopted, that this is Mr. Earnshaw's illegitimate child, which just adds another layer because what do you mean you just brought home this kid and like kind of refused to talk about any of the circumstances of you finding him or like bringing him home? Because that was one of the things in the movie. They did add a father type figure for Heathcliff in the beginning, like when we see those first shots of him at the hanging square. I'm really feeling 2 shots of rum right now. I don't even kind of remember.
Yo, it's hit me too. I was like,
I don't really remember what I was talking about.
I was just thinking the same thing. Okay, but I can lock in.
God.
We were talking about the hanging. Heathcliff has a father figure.
Also,
and that doesn't make sense because what the heck happened there? Like, sure, his dad looks like a douchebag in the beginning, like whatever. But like, was he sold? Because then there's still like the undertones.
What do you mean you
of,
just
like,
took him?
This is giving, yeah. So I have questions there. But here is my like, maybe not hot take, but a take that I haven't heard too many people talk about. It's not even like that the movie should have been written to encompass Heathcliff's race, but just the act of having casted to cast Heathcliff as like however he's described in the book, like kind of Middle Eastern, maybe South Asian, like we don't have an exact location, but just to cast someone not white as Heathcliff without changing anything else about the plot would have added an extra layer of depth to the movie. You could have every single word of that script the same, every single shot the same, and just Heathcliff being someone not white would have made the story richer.
See, and on the other end of that, with like how the script exists now, and it was referenced in that Substack, I'm kind of repeating some of their points because it was brilliant, like reading that, but the only 2 people of color in the main cast are Nellie, who is more vilified in the movie than she is in the book.
It makes me so mad. I can't believe they made her the villain.
She is actively sabotaging Kathy and Heathcliff to the point where like you want her out of the way in the movie. And then Edgar Linton, who in the book is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, this like pinnacle of what Kathy wants to be, because Kathy is white but dark featured. She has dark hair, dark eyes. This is what the Earnshaws look like. It's another layer of feeling like I just don't add up because she's not that blue-eyed, blonde, like white person. Mm-hmm. To then make Edgar Linton this like kind of racial ambiguity in the movie, whose only purpose is to sit there and allow his wife to cheat on him because he knows. Catherine's literally sobbing on the stairs because Heathcliff's getting married, and he's like, "Clean yourself up," and that's it. What are we doing?
Yeah, they stripped so much of Edgar Linton's complexity in the movie, and I don't know my other thought.
No. Oh my God, I want to talk about Nellie. So she is just, I don't know, a background character in the book. That may be the wrong way to describe it, but she is not vilified in the book. Nellie being a servant of the household. She is full on vilified in the movie. And the movie makes a point that this person is a bad guy. And you can't help but notice like the classism in it of how Emerald Fennell took one of these servant characters, made them a bad person, and thus it kind of like vilifies the working class, which the book was a critique on, of how Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship destroyed everything around them, including the lives of the working class. And I'm like, Emerald, how could you? This was one of the core themes of the book. How did you miss? I'm gone, dude.
The other, I think, had Emerald Fennell just made a movie and clarified, it is heavily inspired by Wuthering Heights. We're using the same setting, the same character names, but it is in no way an adaptation. We are not telling the same story. We're not focusing on the same themes. We are shifting it to be a tragic love story. I don't think there would have been any sort of backlash. The point, and this is kind of going back to our first episode with adaptations and the Frankenstein movie starring Jake Belordi. When you take a story, when you take a written book and you adapt it into a film or a TV show, it is a faithful adaptation when it still maintains the core themes. We eventually decided that Frankenstein, like Del Toro's Frankenstein, was not faithful, but the theme of the story was still so engaging, the story was so well done, that it was still a fantastic movie. It might not have been a faithful adaptation, but it was also the understanding of we've shifted character focus from being on Victor Frankenstein to the creature. We're not telling Frankenstein's story anymore. We're telling the creature story. There was a purpose to every single change. Watching the Wuthering Heights movie felt like it was almost just there to be visually beautiful, but that was it. Like, it was this tragic love story, but it was also like the characters felt so flat. Heathcliff in particular, the only thing in the movie that he is obsessed with Kathy. And that's it. Which, like, yes, visually, the scenes with him were stunning. Jacob Elordi is a, like, objectively attractive man. Like, it is visually very beautiful. However, you have flattened this character so badly to where even as a child, even this child who's willing to take a whipping for Kathy, the only thing that we ever really understand about his character is that he is obsessed with Kathy. And that's it.
I'm going to bring my literary chops in here for a moment, talking about the lens that we see this story through. And why Nellie is important in the book is because Nellie is the lens that we see the story through. I get that technically it's Mr. Lockwood, whatever. But the reason that Mr. Lockwood is the, like, I in the story is because he is talking to Nellie. And the reason that Nellie has all this information is because she has been there through the generations. Now, in this adaptation, it cuts off as soon as Catherine dies, which is like a third of the way through the book. And we don't really need Nellie to be the one that we see the story through. I love Nellie. They could never make me hate you, girl. But
Hell yeah. Working class rise up,
Yeah!
dude.
But we didn't need her to be vilified, and we didn't need her to really have as much of a presence in the story as she did. Because at this point, you are throwing away the fact that this is an adaptation. And Nellie is important if you're making an accurate adaptation, but you're not. You're telling Heathcliff and Catherine's love story, which takes place in the first third of the book. And we don't need Nellie to be the one telling that story. We could have it be from Catherine and Heathcliff's perspective, which arguably it is from Catherine and Heathcliff's perspective, mostly Catherine's. Why is Nellie there? Love her, girl. Once again, they could never make me hate you. But what was the point of having there just to, like, make her this villain that keeps Heathcliff and Kathy apart? Makes no sense to me.
I think this goes back to, like, what is a faithful adaptation, because most Wuthering Heights adaptations do end with Kathy's death because they center around Kathy and Heathcliff. Ultimately, the themes of this book are about, like, a tragic, doomed romance where the two people involved are blindly devoted to each other. It's not healthy love. It is about that. But it is also about the consequences that everyone around them has to face when that is the case. And so to end the adaptation with Kathy's death just misses 2/3 of the point of the book. And I think it would just be so much more compelling. And I think that this is even a bigger conversation than Wuthering Heights, because I feel like there's so many choices with adaptation that miss such integral points of the source material. Not to take it back to Harry Potter, but the casting for Lily and James Potter in the movies will always be something that irritates me so badly, because the Marauders, Remus, James, Lily, and Sirius were 20 to 21 when Voldemort comes for Harry Potter, kills James and Lily. James and Lily die at 21, and the point is to emphasize the tragicness of war and the loss of innocence and the devastation that it brings. So to cast people that are, like, in their mid-30s to play these roles misses the point completely. And I think that's the difference between something like this and Del Toro's Frankenstein. Del Toro got the point of Frankenstein and still wanted to tell a different version of the story to highlight a different character. Had this been an adaptation like people thought it was kind of going to be, where we're just highlighting different characters, I was completely on board when I thought it was something of, like, we're shifting from the narrator being Nellie to being either Catherine or Heathcliff, and we're getting to see what their love looked like so that we understand why it was so destructive and didn't care that it was destructive. Kathy and Heathcliff didn't give a shit about who they were harming because of their love. But that's not what we got.
I was talking to a couple girls in the theater that I went to because there was a glitch like 10 minutes before the end of the movie. Like in the last 10 minutes, there was a glitch, so they had to shut off the movie. So I was talking to these girls while we're waiting for them to fix the projector. And I was saying, yeah, this is actually only like the first third of the book. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, they don't even like really kiss. And they're like, oh, so it's more boring then. What?
Okay.
Because.
Oh my god!
I absolutely was like, I need to rein it in. These were educated women too. They're both in their defense in science.
In their defense, if they haven't read the book, they only have the movie. I would understand how you would think this could be boring if.
Dog, I'm coming in swinging.
If they don't kiss, I could understand how you watch this movie that's about a love story. I think that's just more of an invitation to read the book.
I said it was a revenge. I said it was a revenge story, and they were like, "Oh, okay."
No, okay. Hold on. The movie wasn't even hot. Okay. What is okay? Emerald Fennell came into this, and she was like, "I'm gonna ruin the core themes and elements of Wuthering Heights. Fine, whatever. And you're just gonna turn it into a shitty dark romance. Fine." There is the scene at the end where Heathcliff is torturing Isabella, right? And there is a point where she is barking like a dog. That the still of that image is used.
I would too.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hey, hold on. Me too. Hey, okay. Isabella is barking like a dog. I saw the still image of that scene and I thought, whoa, this is so dark. That scene is goofy as fuck. Like, it is not hot.
No, but I talked about this so much when I left the theater. I went with two of my friends and I was so irritated and had such mixed feelings because it was more book accurate than I thought it was going to be. The fact that we got scenes like Kathy slipping and hurting her ankle on the Linton estate, I wasn't expecting to get that. However, I was expecting, Mom, I'm so sorry. I was expecting to go in and watch like 2.5 hours of softcore porn of Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Like that was the sell of this movie. We saw trailers with them like having sex and putting their fingers in each other's mouth and kinky ass shit. That's what we were given. And then we get in, and there's nothing more than the trailers. The trailers were the climax of those sexual scenes. Yep. What do you mean this is like the kinkiest movie of the year? This is like super intense. And even with the scenes of Isabella, that was all, to my understanding of watching the movie, that was staged. Like it wasn't, they're teaming up to like write these letters because Isabella wants a response out of Edgar, and Heathcliff wants a response out of Kathy. Like this is all orchestrated. This is all just a ploy to get attention. And so even that to me was like, this isn't even really genuine because this, like they thought it was Kathy or Edgar that were coming, not Nellie. Like this is a play.
I understand why Fennell did what she did with Isabella. And I do think Isabella barking like a dog is iconic.
It's so goofy.
But let me talk about Isabella in the book. There is these sort of undertones that Isabella is actually in like a very sexually abusive relationship with Heathcliff.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's implied that she's raped in the book, right?
Marital rape. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. But not before they're married. I don't think they have any sexual like intercourse. But yeah, when they're married, it's very implied that there's marital rape.
But then in the movie, it's almost opposite because we see that first scene of her and Heathcliff like genuinely, and he keeps asking, like he's telling her point blank, I am always going to picture Kathy. Do you want me to stop? Like he's giving her an out every time.
And I think it's because they don't want Heathcliff to be too hated. But because the book still has 2/3 to go, but the movie only has 15 more minutes. So they can't make Heathcliff this terrible human being and then expect us to care when he is so sad that the love of his life dies because he's a piece of shit. But in the book, it is very important for us to see his destructive and cruel tendencies. So when Isabella runs away, everything makes so much more sense. Isabella in the movie is an icon. Isabella in the book is an icon, but for totally different reasons. So after Kathy dies, all the adaptations end, but you still got 2/3 of a book left. Now, in Fennell's adaptation, Kathy has a miscarriage, and we end up like, having this really like dark ending and kind of it just adds to the tragedy of the story. And I don't know if that's like a traditional adaptation thing to like make Kathy like lose her child, but in the book, Kathy has a daughter named Catherine. Not confusing at all for any of the readers. And so the rest of the story.
As a quick interject, I literally had to look up a family tree while I was reading.
Yes.
I was like, all right, who is who
It gets
at this
confusing.
point?
I actually feel like I was tracking with that family tree pretty
Oh,
closely.
okay.
I felt literary. I felt smart, but let
Literary
me
as
just say
fuck.
that was convoluted as fuck.
We should merge this as literary.
Literary as
Literary
fuck.
as fuck.
Buy our t-shirts.
That is us. But with the rest of the story really follows young Kathy growing up after her mother dies in Mr. Linton's home. Now, Isabella runs away from Heathcliff when she is pregnant, has a son who we do not know the first name of, and is very not confusingly called Linton.
Wrong. His first name is Linton. His name is Linton Heathcliff.
Oh no.
Oh
no.
my gosh.
Oh no.
Here's the thing. That's
His
how
name is
convoluted
Linton Heathcliff.
This fucking book is. I was just like, we're just referring to him as Linton because that's his. Because he was using his mother's last name but to me that makes sense, right?
No, that does make
Like,
sense. I could
to
see how you
me,
would think that.
The logic makes sense because Isabella was raising this kid for like 10 years before Isabella ends up dying. And so it makes sense that this kid would just be called Linton and referred to as Linton. And we don't hear him referred to as Heathcliff ever. So we get this kid that's named Linton. And then Hindley, who's not existent in the Fennel adaptation, not sure about others, he has a son named Hareton that is thrown off a banister as a baby and Heathcliff catches and whatever. He's had a traumatic childhood. Heathcliff also traumatizes this child. And Heathcliff is raising this son, the son of his abuser, essentially.
As a quick interjection here, something that is not carried from book to movie is that Catherine has a brother named Hindley. I think the movie references this when Kathy says that she has has a sibling that died as a baby. I think that's what we were getting at. Book, Catherine. Book, Margot Robbie has a brother named Hindley who is the most racist antagonist of Heathcliff. Mm-hmm. Hindley is who Heathcliff experiences the most racism from. Hindley becomes master of Wuthering Heights, the house, once their father dies. Mr. Earnshaw dies pretty early on in the book. Hindley has a son named Hareton, who Heathcliff ends up almost inheriting with the house. Like, once Hindley ends up losing all of his money and the house to Heathcliff, Hareton ends up dying later on in kind of the same manner that Mr. Earnshaw does in the movie.
Hindley dies later on, not Hareton.
Hindley dies later on in the same manner that Mr. Earnshaw does in the movie. Like, he drinks himself to death. It's like a big thing. But after Heathcliff like beats his ass in the house, like it's a whole big dramatic affair. But Hindley's son Hareton is left to Heathcliff. Heathcliff makes it his mission to fucking ruin Hareton.
The beautiful part about following this sort of second generation is that we are seeing reflections of the first generation. And that is the point that Emily Brontë was trying to make in Wuthering Heights, was that evil kind of breeds evil, raises evil. Heathcliff raises another version of himself in Hareton, the son of his abuser, and raises this sort of thing where he acknowledges at the end he was looking into Hareton's eyes and sees like a younger version of himself. And he looks into young Catherine's eyes, not to be confused with his love Catherine, Catherine's daughter, Catherine.
For the sake of this episode, typically in the book, Margot Robbie's character is referred to as Catherine. Her daughter is referred to as Kathy.
But
for the rest of this episode, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we can do. The book does not follow that standard.
It doesn't follow that rule.
It doesn't follow it at all. In fact, Heathcliff will be referred to as Heathcliff. Also, he'll be referred to as the uncle. He'll he'll be the master of the house. Like, you're just getting so many different versions of one name. Like, it would not fly in modern literary publishing world. They'd be like, you need to be clear with who you're talking about. You cannot just like introduce new names.
If I can interject, I mean, in the book, I think it's pretty obvious that the reason for the repeated names with Catherine and Catherine is it's such basic literary reading. It's showing the generational trauma. Like it just retains, because these two super toxic people found each other, they have created a legacy of pain. God damn it, I can't believe it. I can't believe anyone would call this a love story.
It's more interesting the way that it is written, that I want to see an adaptation of this full generational thing.
Okay, I saw a TikTok. I'm going to find it so that you could like edit it in later and we can actually credit this creator. But it was someone saying what the adaptation should have been. It should have been called like Will Be Damned or something, like We Will Be Damned. And it should have centered Isabella Linton as the protagonist, because she's one of the only characters that like kind of you could see from the outside perspective into the second generation. I understand that she dies before Linton Heathcliff is returned to the property. I'm not sure where we would go from there, but it is the idea of someone who can bear witness to the toxicity of the cycle. I like feel like I'm gnawing at the bars of my enclosure. Like, I want an adaptation from someone who can witness. And so I kind of want a really faithful, true to the book adaptation from Nellie's perspective of someone who can bear witness to Kathy and Heathcliff and their destructive ass shit impacting their children and how it goes from A to B.
To give you how interesting Isabella Linton is in the book, after Catherine dies and Heathcliff essentially goes even more crazy than he probably already was, she goes, Heathcliff, if I were you, I'd go stretch myself over her grave and die like a faithful dog. The world is surely not worth living in now, is it? You have distinctly impressed on me the idea that Catherine was the whole joy of your life. I can't imagine how you think of surviving her loss. Iconic.
Bars.
Yes. Like,
Bars.
Isabella makes such an interesting lens to see things through if you're telling the first version of the story, obviously before she dies. Like, that's about like halfway through the story that she ends up dying. But like, she is such a cool character that to look into.
I also think, me personally, I think an adaptation would be so cool if it was called Kathy. And it starts from Catherine Earnshaw's perspective. And when she dies, we end up getting a time jump into Catherine Linton's perspective. As sort of like the direct, I mean, you said it best earlier. The reason they're both named Catherine is to show the effects of this generational curse that's been installed. I think that would be the clearest through line to see it happen.
It's almost a little too obvious that Catherine is a reflection of Catherine. So to miss the subtext and completely stop the story.
It was literally
Emerald.
being spoon-fed to you.
Stop.
But I would love a story that doesn't even talk about Catherine and Heathcliff's love story, that just starts with Catherine Linton. Like, I'm talking not even mentioning Catherine Heathcliff at all, but this idea of being a ghost of a mother that you've never even met.
See, and
so interesting.
Okay. One of my other complaints about the movie is that I feel like Charlie XCX was one of the big marketing tools. And I only heard that woman sing like 3 times in the movie. I understand that like instrumental versions of her tracks played, but I was so excited to go and hear Charlie XCX and then not really hear her that much, at least her singing. But House, like the most well-known song pre-release. I feel like it's changed a little bit since the release of the movie, but House by Charlie XCX, with the integral line of like, I think I'm gonna die in this house, would have been so perfect for Catherine Linton being locked up in Wuthering Heights, sick, and being refused any sort of communication with Thrushcross Grange as her home, with her father as he's sick, would have been so perfect. Why did we use it for the hanging scene where everybody's turned on? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I think that the soundtrack of this movie was great. I actually really enjoyed all the soundtrack, whether it was Charlie XCX or not. I think that it was phenomenal. You're right. I was maybe a little pulled out by I think I'm going to die in this house at the beginning. But, I mean, I think part of it is the fact that it became like a major trend. So, there's no like unfiltered way for me to have seen that scene and not associate it with the trends that I've seen. I almost have to ask my fiance who watched it with me, who's not very active on social media, if he was pulled out by that. I know. But like it didn't. I think that the soundtrack was overall good. Maybe placement could have been better. And maybe Charlie XCX had read the whole book and was writing based on these greater themes of the whole book.
I did like the songs that were played. I did like the soundtrack. That wasn't what I was trying to say. I just feel like we hyped up Charlie XCX and I heard her maybe 3 times and I would have liked to hear her more. And I feel like you're probably right on like so many of those songs feel like they would have made more sense for other things that happened in the book. So if you watch the movie, and because I have seen it all over my For You page, I don't know if you guys have, but of people being like so completely enamored and absorbed with this, read the book. You're still missing 2/3 of the story.
And it gets so much more interesting. It is so convoluted to read. So take your time because the writing is just, it's a bit much. But the story isn't that complicated. It is very, like, Catherine and Catherine being reflections of each other. That is so obvious. Baby literary people can understand that. So you've got this, girl or boy or non-binary friend. Like,
Hell yeah.
Woo! You've
Hell
got
yeah.
this. And honestly, it's worth like a slow like look through for the darker gothic themes. I saw something that said they de-gothified Kathy.
They did.
And they did bring back gothic Kathy.
See, and what's crazy is that the casting for the Lintons, I think, would have been peak casting for the Earnshaws. Give me the
Interesting.
actress that played Isabella. Isabella is what Kathy looked like.
Yes!
That was Kathy. That was Kathy.
Here's what I want to say. That the point of our Cocktails and Classics episode is to demystify the classics. Like, we are here telling you that, yes, you person who maybe hasn't read in a while, maybe has done light reading, you can pick up the classics and have a good time. And I do 100% think that you can pick up Wuthering Heights. I mean, we got it right here. It's like, it's not that thick. Like, you can read through it and you can get this full, beautiful, encapsulating story about the human condition and what trauma does to people. And also, yeah, there are some interesting romantic elements. Is it the greatest love story ever told? No. But it does have some interesting romantic elements. That being said, I do think you should approach it with a level of reverence, of caution. It is one of the greatest novels for a reason. Like, it has complex and interesting themes, and the way that the story is woven is it's a nested narrative. It's narrator within narrator within narrator, but you can still do it.
I also think, before we close, it's important that we note this was not meant to be shitting on Emerald Fennell's movie by itself. I enjoyed the movie. I think the movie was fun. I think that it had very visually beautiful elements going on. I just don't think it was a good adaptation.
We did get the corset scene. That was kind of hot.
That was so hot.
It was a little hot, yeah.
Yes, it's not an adaptation. I enjoyed the movie too. The costumes, I actually didn't care. I don't care that it's not historically accurate, but get to the heart of the beat. Like, get to the heart of the book. And to say that it's not a love story, like, there is love in this. And to me, Heathcliff and Kathy, sure, is an impactful romance to the story. But the most critical romance of this story happens in the last 15 pages. And that is what this whole book is about, is to get to that last 15 pages. It's worth taking a jump into books that are intimidating. This book is a slow start. I'm not going to lie. It's not what I would recommend to someone that has never read a classic before to get them into reading classics. But if you are brave enough to try, like, reading something that is difficult, you want to have something that is going to push you, I think Wuthering Heights is a good start because it is not that long. Mm-hmm. It is not Moby Dick. Yep. So you can read something complicated and get pushed through it and have an interesting story. And the story isn't the difficult part to get through. It's just kind of the language and the formatting of it. So you're growing your literary skills, but you're not grasping for a bunch of, like, story details that you're not understanding. It is just the writing of it And it is really poetic. We have some banger lines in this book.
Whatever
Y'all,
souls are made of, his or mine are the same.
I have
Crazy.
annotations on annotations here. Like, it's a good book.
I am Heathcliff.
I also think that we talked about this, I think, in our first cocktails episode, but it's almost like with some books, there's like a secret to unlocking how to read it. And for me, with Lord of the Rings, trying to get through that is just picturing it in Ian McKellen's cadence as Gandalf. If I picture Gandalf narrating that story to me, it's like the easiest thing in the world to read. With Wuthering Heights, picturing it as like reality show side interviews, reminding yourself that this is Nellie telling Mr. Lockwood the whole time. This is literally just the maid like sharing gossip. Reminding yourself of that was my key to like unlocking how to read this book.
Real Housewives of Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
Nellie, they could never make us hate you.
Nellie,
We
you're
love
my
you.
girl.
So back to my point because I remembered it. I also felt very stupid. I don't know why I'm so
If you
leaning
want
into
this
the
to
mic.
be the outtake, like we can.
It's so
we can edit you in.
inappropriate, and I don't want my mommy to hear me say these words. Leaving the movie theater, I got pissed off because there's only like 2 scenes where Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi put their fingers in each other's mouth, and it's all freaky. And then I saw the scene where like Jacob Elordi catches Margot Robbie like masturbating, and then like she shoves the grass in his mouth. I didn't realize what was going on in that scene, which was not just him putting her fingers in his mouth for the sake of being freaky. Those were the fingers she was using.
I didn't think about that either.
Those were the fingers she was using.
I didn't catch that.
I felt so stupid. I immediately FaceTimed the friend I went and saw the movie with. And I was like, did you pick up on this? Because I didn't. And she was like, yeah. And I was like,
I didn't pick up on it
well,
either.
now I feel like a hater because that's so freaky. And I've been talking about how this movie was not freaky at all.
No, that's definitely. Yeah,
It's so freaky.
I didn't get it either.
This movie doesn't deserve that much of a pass, but it gets a little one for that
little.
one. A little one.
Sorry,
and
Mom.
the like watching through the like floorboards. I thought that was interesting.
It's
for
kinda
That
hot.
pisses me off because why did 2 side characters have the freakiest scene in the movie?
But also, because it's Joseph or Yosef, whatever.
Also, why did we make him young and hot?
Exactly.
Why is Aemon Targaryen playing Joseph?
Aemon's hot. He can get it.
Oh my gosh. we didn't
Why
even talk
is he
about
playing Joseph?
Because Joseph is like, and it's because he's written so phonetically that I just fucking hate him.
I'm hooked off phonics, dude.
He shouldn't be hot. But I guess.
Also, the whole overlap, because I don't know if you guys heard it, but the woman he was having sex with was Zilla.
What?
Yes!
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes!
I didn't know that.
Because when Catherine Earnshaw returns to Wuthering Heights to check on her dad, she sees Joseph outside and asks about Zilla, and Zilla's apparently gotten married or moved away, which does happen eventually in the book. But Zilla and Nellie are not supposed to overlap.
That's wild.
Oh my gosh.
Wuthering Heights, more like Wuthering Lows. Thank you. Thank you.